3 spine-chilling true stories of sinister encounters. Unexplainable events exposed. The summer night air was thick and suffocating, but Angela felt a chill run down her spine as she wiped down the diner counter. Shadows danced under the flickering fluorescent lights, casting eerie shapes that made her jump at every little sound. It was supposed to be a regular shift, but something felt off. The phone rang, and when she answered, there was only silence on the other end. Her heart hammered in her chest, fear rippling through her like ice water. She hung up, breathing fast. Was someone watching her? She brushed it off. Just a prank. Just another ordinary night, she told herself, and yet, the feeling lingered. When she got home to their little apartment, the walls felt like they were closing in. Tyler's drawings brightened the space, but they couldn't distract her from the creeping dread. As she settled him into bed, the shadows outside her window flickered ominously. She tried to focus on Tyler's soft breathing, but the weight of despair settled heavily in her gut. Days passed, each one marked by the silent calls. Had someone chosen her? The dread pooled in her stomach like a lead weight, growing heavier. Tyler, once bubbly and giggly, became a shadow of himself. His innocent little heart felt her fear and started acting out, knocking over toys and yelling, a reflection of the storm brewing in his mother's heart. Angela couldn't shake it. She started researching online what could be causing this fear. Her pulse quickened as she discovered the news. A recent release from a nearby correctional facility. A man with a history of targeting single mothers. A chill gripped her. Could it really be him? Panic set in as she realized the police were overwhelmed. Her frantic calls were met with polite assurances but empty promises. Alone. She was alone, and it felt like an eternity of dread. One late night, as she rocked Tyler to sleep, she thought she heard a knock at the door, a soft, deliberate knock that made her skin crawl. The darkness whispered, pulling her closer to the hallway. As she approached the door, her heart pounding wildly. She stepped softly, creeping closer. The silence echoed like a drumbeat, urging her to turn back. But she wouldn't. She peered through the peephole. There was a dark silhouette casting a shadow that swallowed the light. "Who's there?" Her voice trembled, barely escaping her throat. No answer. Just a chill drifting through the crack beneath the door, filling the air with terror. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As dawn broke, desperation drove her to Mr. Thompson as her friendly neighbor. He had always lent a helping hand. Yet, as she approached, snippets of a conversation filtered through the walls. Words that sent chills down her spine, dark truths about past offenses tinged with menace. Her breath caught, heart racing. She stumbled back, feeling the ground shift beneath her, realizing the danger was not just from the outside, but lurking right next door. Her world was spiraling, and every secret she uncovered deepened her resolve. Angela knew now. The fight to keep Tyler safe would take more than just courage. It would force her to confront the lurking darkness in her own neighborhood. The simple suburban bliss was crumbling, and with it, the safety she'd believed in. The real horror was just beginning, and time was running out. The sun hung low, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch endlessly across the street when Angela returned home, her mind racing with dread. Each step felt heavier, like the very air weighed on her shoulders, pressing her toward the door of her apartment. As she entered, she was met with the familiar scent of crayons and faded paper, remnants of her son's imagination hanging thick in the air. Yet, the chill crawled down her spine. Tyler was still asleep, but it felt different now, vulnerable, exposed. She glanced toward the window, drawn to it as if it held some dark secret just out of reach. The streetlights flickered, and the world outside felt alive, filled with whispers of evil she couldn't quite hear. She turned to the kitchen to pour a glass of water, but her eyes were drawn back to the door. The very thought of it sent dread pooling in her stomach. What if he was out there, watching? The silence screamed at her. It was suffocating. After a restless hour, when shadows morphed into threatening figures, Angela gathered her courage. She needed answers. Throwing on a jacket, she crept out into the night. The moon hung heavily in the sky, a witness to her unease. Her feet moved of their own accord toward Mr. Thompson's apartment. Each step felt like an offense against her instincts, which screamed for her to turn back. But fear was eclipsed by desperation. She had to confront the truth. She knocked hard, breathless, and her fists felt as if they were striking glass. Nothing. She knocked again, harder this time, until the door finally creaked open, revealing Mr. Thompson, his face slightly gaunt, but with an unsettling smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Angela, what a surprise at this hour." Hi, Mr. Thompson. Is everything all right?" The innocent tone of her voice felt like a thin veil over her growing anxiety. "Of course. Can I get you something to drink?" No, thanks. I just wanted to check on you." He leaned against the door frame, his posture too relaxed, too calculating. "You know, times are tough. People get a little lost during dark nights." A shiver raced up Angela's spine. The implications weighed heavy in the air. Right. As she turned to leave, she caught a glimpse of something that sent ice flooding through her veins, a collection of newspapers stacked in the corner, each headline more chilling than the last. Single mothers vanishing. Police issue warnings after local woman disappears. Each headline felt like a foreboding nod toward the fears she had buried. "Are you okay, Angela?" His voice broke her trance, the smile twisted in a way that made it hard to breathe. "Fine, just," she stammered, barely able to formulate a thought, "just going home." But as she turned to leave, a voice behind her made her freeze. "You should stay in the light, Angela, it's much safer." Those words echoed long after she had stepped outside, seeping into her mind. Home felt miles away as she hurried back, each shadow whispering her name. As she entered her apartment, the familiar comfort of her little space turned to dread once more. Tyler was still asleep, but a new kind of fear gripped her. The window was slightly ajar, the breeze rustling the curtains like ghostly fingers, and then she heard the faintest scratching sound coming from beneath the bed. Terror gripped her throat. She knelt slowly, heart pounding so loud she almost didn't hear him whispering, "Mommy, help me." Was it her imagination? Or something darker? The room felt impossibly small, closing in fast. Then came a voice, an unsettling whisper, so close she could feel the cold breathe on her neck. "Mommy, come play." And she knew then that this was a game she couldn't afford to lose. What waited in the dark corners of her home? As the scratching grew more frantic, Angela's heart raced with chilling certainty. The real terror was carving its way toward her. When she finally glanced beneath the bed, all she could do was gasp. What had her son been hiding? Angela's breath caught in her throat as her eyes adjusted to the dim light. She blinked rapidly, the image slowly becoming clearer. There, in the shadows beneath her bed, was something small and dark, a familiar form, but twisted in a way that made her heart race. Tyler's favorite toy, the worn-out blue dinosaur he carried everywhere, lay on the floor, but it wasn't he alone. Beside it, something else shifted. A glimmer of an eye stared at her, reflecting the faint glow from the streetlight outside. The scratching became louder, like frantic nails on wood. Angela's instincts kicked, and this wasn't right. Drowning in fear, she shifted back, barely holding on to her sanity. "Tyler," she whispered, hoping it would bring the real boy out from whatever nightmare held him captive, but her voice wavered, betraying her rising panic. Another scrape echoed in the silence, and she felt the cold breeze swirl tighter around her. "Mommy, come play." The voice was Tyler's, but it lacked warmth. It was hollow, as though it came from somewhere deep in the bowels of darkness. Every instinct screamed for her to flee, but she couldn't leave him. She had to be brave. She took a shaky breath and leaned further down, squinting into the void beneath the bed. The moment her head hovered over the edge, the eyes widened, revealing not one, but two reflections of her son staring back. One was Tyler, wide-eyed and trembling. The other, a twisted version, grinning maniacally, its tiny hands stretched toward her with fingers that seemed impossibly long. Angela recoiled, gasping for air. "Tyler, come here. Mommy, help me." He reached out, his normal voice tinged with the same chilling tone that resonated from beneath. "I'm scared." The creature moved quickly, crawling into view, its smile widening, revealing rows of sharp, thin teeth. It wasn't just a trick of the light, it was real. The air thickened, weighed down by despair and confusion. Angela scrambled to her feet, backing away rapidly. Terror coursing through her veins. As she stumbled around the bed, she grabbed Tyler's toy off the floor, her instincts kicking in again. She needed to protect something, anything. "Stay away from him," she shouted, as she felt the thing slither closer. "Why?" it asked, tilting its head, its voice now melodic yet deeply dissonant. "Yes, mine now." In a split second, she realized that if she didn't act swiftly, she could lose everything. "Tyler, grab onto my hand." "Mommy, please," he cried again, terror flooding his own voice as he writhed in place. The creature staring him down, as if savoring each moment of fear. With a newfound determination, Angela lunged forward, reaching under the bed to grab her son's arm, feeling the unmistakable warmth of his skin against her fingertips. With one strong pull, she jerked back, getting him out from under that dark spell. But it wasn't over. The creature hissed, the sound like splintering glass, and the room chilled, filling with an ominous darkness that stretched beyond the confines of the bedroom. Shadows thickened, solidifying into forms that resembled the very nightmares Angela had buried deep within her soul. Indeed, the game hadn't even begun. "Mommy?" Tyler whimpered, gripping her tightly. "Where do we go?" The answer hovered in the air, swirling with the shadows. Angela glanced toward the flickering hallway light and escape, but it felt perilous. If she wanted to save them both, they had to move now, or risk being swallowed by the very darkness they'd encountered. "Hold on tight, Tyler. We're not finished yet," she said, her voice firm despite quaking inside. Each word became a mantra of survival. As they darted for the doorway, a laugh broke the oppressive silence, echoing through their small apartment. "You can't run from me, Angela." And as she dashed into the hall, she realized one terrifying truth. This nightmare had only just begun. What other horrors awaited them outside their sanctuary? Would they withstand the trial of shadows threatening to consume them? Angela sprinted down the hallway, her heart pounding in her chest like a wild drum. The flickering light above felt like a warning, casting elongated shadows that chased after her and Tyler. Each step echoed, bouncing off the walls, amplifying the creeping dread that lingered in the corners of her mind. "Mommy, why is it so dark?" Tyler's voice trembled, clinging to her side with desperate urgency. She could barely find the words to reassure him. The hallway felt alive, its unseen inhabitants whispering secrets that made her skin crawl. "Just keep moving," she urged, glancing back toward the room. The laughter rolled out like smoke, thick and oppressive. She could almost see it, curling around her like a serpent, suffocating and sinister. They rushed toward the living room, the familiar space now transformed into a labyrinth of shadows. A couch loomed large, the once cozy fabric now a monstrous figure with dark eyes, waiting to pounce. Angela could feel the warmth of Tyler beside her, but with each second that passed, the connection felt lighter, as if the shadows were pulling him away. "Mommy," Tyler's voice faded, an echo swallowed by the darkness. Panic surged within Angela. For one terrifying moment, she feared she had lost him already. She squeezed his hand tighter, the reality of their situation crashing down around her. "Tyler, stay close." She darted to the window, pushing the curtain aside. The street outside, usually so bright and lively, was now draped in an unsettling darkness. The only reason she hadn't slammed the window shut was that the thought of being trapped inside the apartment sent daggers of terror through her mind. "Maybe we can get out through the back door," she suggested. "We need to hurry." "Okay," Tyler replied, but the hesitance in his voice made her stomach sink. She turned, dragging him closer, but as they turned to make for the kitchen, the laughter rang out again, sharper now, like claws scraping across glass. "No, no," Angela whispered, glancing back toward the source, but in that brief moment, Tyler slipped from her grasp. "Tyler!" She whipped around, her throat tightening. He stood frozen, entranced by something behind her. Angela felt the pull of that dark presence again, creeping over her skin like ice. She fought the urge to turn and look, to confront the unknown horror hunting them. "Mommy, I can't see," he whimpered, the innocence in his voice making her blood run cold. "Just move," she shouted, her heart racing as she lunged forward, grabbing his arm again. "We have to go now." The shadows stirred, and a cacophony of whispers filled the air, mingling with the oppressive laughter. Leave him, Angela one crooned sweetly, sending shivers racing along her spine. Let him come to me now, she snapped, clenching Tyler's little hand as fierce determination surged in her chest. Not him. You can't have him. Mommy, Tyler pleaded, his eyes welling with tears that glistened like the moonlight. Before she could respond, a sudden force swept through the air, knocking them backward. Angela stumbled, catching herself against the wall, her pulse quickening as shadows swirled around them, thickening like a storm. The laughter rose again, more sinister, more intoxicating. In that moment, the door at the end of the hallway creaked open, revealing a dark figure cloaked in shadows. Angela felt her hope wane as the creature stood there, a twisted version of everything she feared. It raised a hand, long fingers beckoning them closer. Come join us. Angela's breath hitched. Stay back. But it was a whisper against the howling wind of despair. She had to act. There was only one thing left to do. Tyler, run. As soon as those two words left her lips, Angela felt every ounce of fear surge through her. Would they escape? Or was this the last moment before the darkness consumed them both? Her heart raced as they turned to run, all too aware that something was watching them, waiting, hungry for the hunt. Would they find a way out? Or had they stepped into the maw of an inescapable nightmare? Angela pushed Tyler ahead of her, the dark figure's laughter echoing in her mind, distorting her thoughts like whispers blown by a wicked wind. They dashed down the narrow hallway, each footstep heavy with dread. She could feel the shadows wrapping around them, tugging at her, yearning to pull them back. Mommy, I don't want to be here, Tyler shouted, his voice cracking. I know. Just keep running, she gasped, glancing behind. The figure lingered at the door, its mouth curling in a cruel smile, beckoning with a wave that felt too much like a promise of despair. The kitchen was just ahead. She pushed through the door, her heart pounding harder than ever as she scanned the cramped space. The shadows lingered here too, thick and haunting, pooling in corners, making the utensils glint like sharp teeth. Where are we going? Tyler whimpered, his small body shaking against hers. Anywhere but here. She spotted the back door, a faint glimmer of hope. If only they could reach it before the darkness caught them. Angela grabbed a nearby chair, slamming it against the door to force it open. The hinges creaked, protesting against her frantic urgency. A cold blast of air rushed in, cutting through the suffocating darkness surrounding them. Help me, Tyler, she urged, pulling on the door with all her strength. But he hesitated, staring wide-eyed into the darkness just beyond the threshold. Mommy, what's out there? Before she could answer, a chill swept through the room. It coiled around her neck, and the laughter began again, a cruel melody that tugged at her sanity. Leave him, Angela, it sang, layering like thick fog over her thoughts. He's better off with us now, she screamed. Not my son, Tyler whimpered, caught in an invisible grip. Angela felt the shadows press against her skin, suffocating and sinister. She had to push forward, but fear paralyzed her. The figure had moved closer, its silhouette dark and imposing, looming in the doorframe as though waiting for an invitation. Tyler, listen, she whispered urgently, dropping to one knee. You have to trust me. You have to get out. With one last push, she yanked on the door, and it flung open. The burst of light felt almost blinding. Go. Now. Tyler stumbled forward, hesitating at the threshold as if the darkness behind them whispered promises of safety. Please, Angela begged, her heart in her throat. You have to believe me. No one is safe here. Finally, he stepped outside, and she followed close behind, slamming the door shut. They landed in a dark alley, the smells of wet pavement and decay filling her lungs. But relief was short-lived. We're not safe yet, she said, looking around, the shadows lurking behind the buildings like crouching beasts. She could still hear the laughter, though it was muted now, echoing through the alley like a taunt. Where do we go now? Tyler asked, clinging to her arm that a flicker of hope ignited within her. There were more apartments, more possible exits. But as she began to walk, the shadows slithered out of the alley walls, morphing into elongated figures stretching toward them. Run, she cried, and they darted into the street. Behind them, chaos erupted as the darkness coalesced into a whirlwind, surging toward the last vestiges of light. But when they turned the corner, Angela's heart sank. All that lay ahead was an impenetrable fog, swallowing everything in its path. On the far side, she spotted a flickering light, the only beacon in this nightmare. "Mommy, what is that?" Tyler trembled, his innocent eyes reflecting her panic. The shadows behind them grew. They were alive, relentless demons made of night. And in that moment, Angela understood. They weren't just running from darkness. They were being drawn to something lurking in the light. "Don't look back," she urged, pulling him along. But as they raced toward the glow, the ground beneath them began to tremble, a low rumble building in power. Glimmers of laughter echoed once more, but this time it wasn't just a taunt. It felt like a promise of what was to come. Whatever lay in the fog was not merely a refuge. It could be a trap, pulling them into deeper horror. "Mommy, what are we running to?" Tyler's voice quaked. Angela froze for a moment, her breath catching in her throat. They needed to choose. Escape into the unknown light or face the horrors behind them. "Tyler," she whispered, a bead of sweat trickling down her temple. What if it's worse?" And just as her mind swirled with doubt, the shadows lunged, and Angela knew they were out of time. "Hold on tight," she shouted, and they plunged forward together. What awaited them in the light? Was it salvation or another round of despair? The creeping dread filled her as they moved, fighting against the darkness that still sought to claim them. With every instinct screaming for her to turn back, she pressed on, stepping into the unknown, heart pounding with fear and a chilling sense of inevitability. The world around them warped as they emerged from the shadows. The flickering light ahead pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing them in with an inexplicable force. The fog thickened, swallowing their surroundings. Remaining buildings became mere silhouettes, and the air turned stifling, laden with dread and possibility. "Mommy, I'm scared," Tyler whispered, his tiny hand trembling in hers. Angela clenched her jaw, fighting her own rising panic. She had to seem strong for him. "It's going to be okay, Tyler. Just keep holding my hand." Something uncanny lingered in the air, an electrical charge that vibrated against her skin. Every instinct screamed to pull Tyler close and turn back, but the laughter echoed, wrapping around her, taunting, urging them forward. The figures of darkness were no longer a distant threat. They were moving with them, shifting in the fog, forming and reforming like a nightmare made flesh. As they closed in on the light, Angela noticed movement within the haze. Shadows danced beneath the surface, writhing like trapped souls. She could almost hear whispers, fragmented words slipping through the air, a dark lullaby of temptation and terror. "Keep running," Angela called, her voice firmer now, trying to drown out her own fear. But the closer they got to the light, the more it morphed, transforming into a flickering doorway that appeared and vanished with each step. "Mommy, look," Tyler pointed, eyes wide with a mixture of curiosity and dread. Angela hesitated, glancing at what he saw. There, in the light, shapes began to emerge, figures resembling people but twisted, distorted. Their eyes glimmered with an unsettling brightness, and their mouths moved silently, as if trapped in an endless scream. "Don't look, Tyler," Angela yelled, dragging him away, but the light pulled at their feet, enticing them like moths to a flame. The fog shivered, rolling back to showcase the haunting silhouettes. With every inch of movement, she felt the shadows press closer, squeezing the air from her lungs. She could hear a soft voice break through the cacophony of her thoughts, the figure's cruel melody slipping back into her mind. "Stay with us, you belong here, why don't they move?" Tyler's voice was barely a whisper, heavy with confusion. She squeezed his hand tighter. "We have to go? Now." More shadows flooded in, blocking their escape. Angela stumbled, panic igniting in her gut. The trapped figures surrounded them, their eyes gleaming like shards of glass. The laughter rose, a discordant symphony that made her heart race and her legs go weak. "Mommy," Tyler cried, squeezing his eyes shut, fear radiating from him. "Don't close your eyes, Tyler. Keep looking," Angela shouted, forcing herself to remain focused on the flickering light as it pulsed, beckoning her irrevocably, an invitation that felt like a noose tightening around her throat. In that split second, the laughter shifted tone, becoming taunting, more sinister. "You cannot escape your fate. Angela, he will be ours." "No," she bellowed, an instinctive roar against the overwhelming despair closing in. A roar echoed through the air, a crash of thunder that wasn't in the sky, but within her soul. And then the figures moved, rushing toward them, stretching fingers made of shadow, seeking to grasp what they desired. "Run, Tyler! Run!" she screamed. Somehow, she found the strength to surge forward, dragging him along. The ground quaked violently beneath their feet, almost swallowing them whole. But with sheer determination, Angela propelled them into the light, heart racing, breath coming in desperate gasps. The figures stumbled behind them, their laughter morphing into wails of anger, a cacophony that clawed at her sanity. And just when they thought they had escaped, the fog swirled aggressively, tendrils reaching for Tyler's legs, threatening to yank him back. "Mommy!" he yelled, eyes wide and terrified. Angela's heart slashed with the weight of his fear. She couldn't let that happen. With a desperate heave, she yanked him from the shadows that threatened to reclaim him. The doorway flickered again, and just as she thought they might escape, she felt something cold and sharp wrap around her ankle. Pain shot through her, twisting her body. She screamed, pulling Tyler closer. "Don't look back." But this time, it wasn't the shadows that echoed her command, but something else from the light. A voice that rang with authority. "Join us." And then everything erupted into chaos as the figures merged into the light, a blinding flash that consumed them both. What would remain of them after colliding with the unknown? What dark secret lay in that flickering, hungry light? The blinding light swallowed them whole, and for a moment, Angela felt an overwhelming sense of weightlessness. Time stretched into an eternity, an infinite expanse of white. Somewhere deep inside, she wished it would swallow her fear too. Then, without warning, the world dropped back into focus. They landed on hard, uneven ground. The light wavered and dimmed, revealing a chilling landscape that made Angela's stomach drop. They were in a fog-laden valley, surrounded by monstrous trees that loomed tall and twisted, a tangled maze of branches reaching down like skeletal hands. "Mommy, I don't like this." Tyler's voice trembled as he clutched her hand, his small face pale in the diminishing light. Angela's heart raced. They were no longer being pursued, but the oppressive atmosphere felt more sinister. "It's okay, baby. We'll find a way out." Though her voice remained steady, cold sweat formed on her brow, and her mind churned with fear. As she scanned their surroundings, the laughter from before echoed softly through the mist, a haunting melody that made her skin crawl. "We're not alone," she whispered, pulling Tyler closer. "Stay close to me." Shapes emerged from the shadows, lurking just beyond the dim light. They weren't the figures from before, but something different, faint outlines, like ghostly apparitions drifting through the fog. Angela's breath hitched. The air grew thick with anticipation, as if the night itself was holding its breath. "Mommy, look!" Tyler's tiny finger pointed to a flickering form, the outline of a child, no older than Tyler. The figure was wet and shimmering, like it had just stepped out of a dream. "Don't!" Angela pulled him back instinctively, her heart pounding. "That's not real. Just keep walking." One step forward, and another, but the child stood there, still and silent, watching them. The eyes glowing faintly held a sorrow that twisted something deep within Angela. "Please help me." The voice was soft, pleading, echoing in the depths of her mind. "No, keep moving," she shouted, voice cracking, the weight of its sadness nearly buckling her knees. But Tyler was already stepping toward the figure, drawn in by its wretched call. "Tyler, no?" Angela lunged forward just in time, wrapping her arms around him, wrenching him back. The child's expression shifted instantly, becoming a grotesque mask of anger and despair. "You'll regret it. You'll never escape." The fog rippled violently, and the ghastly voices of the shadows wailed in chorus, filling the silence. "You cannot run. You will join us." Panic surged through Angela. The ground beneath them trembled, and tendrils of fog snaked around their feet. Each time they tried to step forward, the earth seemed to conspire against them. "Run!" Angela cried again. Tyler's eyes widened, glistening with unshed tears. "But what if we get lost? It's better than staying here." They took off, moving through the dense fog, heartbeats pounding, breath coming in sharp gasps. Each shadow they passed seemed to stir with the whispers of the lost, their cries rising in a crescendo of desperate longing. The deeper they moved into the fog-laden valley, the more the darkness clung to them, heavy and suffocating. "Mommy, I can't," Tyler faltered, struggling to keep up, the anxiety burning in his small voice. "Just a little more." Her own resolve began to waver, but she fought to maintain focus, leaping over roots and unseen dips in the earth. The shadows loomed closer, and Angela could feel their icy breath on the back of her neck. Then they broke through an opening, and suddenly, the chilling fog fell away, revealing a clearing. But it wasn't safe. The trees circled the edge, forming an impenetrable barrier. The air crackled with energy, the laughter returned, echoing off the trees. "Join us." The call resonated deeply, a promise drenched in darkness. Angela's breath escaped her. She turned, staring out at what lay ahead, a darker void beyond the clearing, where the shadows writhed like a living tapestry. "Mommy," Tyler whispered, horrified. "Stay right behind me, Tyler. Whatever happens, don't let go." But just then, the ground beneath them began to shift, a churning mass of fear rising as shadowy hands broke through the earth. They were surrounded again, and just when Angela thought they might be lost forever, a familiar voice broke through the chaos, a chilling echo. "You cannot wake up from this nightmare. You chose to come back." Angela's heart dropped as she realized the truth. Whatever lay beyond the shadows, it wasn't done with them yet. What would it take to escape this cursed place? Or had they stepped into a far worse hell? Angela's heart raced faster than her feet could carry her. The ground trembled again, sending a shockwave of terror surging through her. She held Tyler tightly, instinctively shielding him from the unseen horror that lurked just beyond their feeble sanctuary. The trees creaked ominously, their branches twisting like fingers curling in anticipation. Mommy, Tyler's tiny voice quivered, barely audible over the rising, whispering winds. She pressed a finger to her lips, hoping to silence the cacophony swelling around them. "Listen." She strained to hear any sign of safety, but all that greeted her were the haunted echoes, mocking her efforts to shield her son. Suddenly, a cold gust swept through the clearing, and with it came the laughter. It reverberated, sharp and biting, like ice against fresh wounds, punctuating the air with an unsettling familiarity. Join us," the voice twisted, nodding her insides. Angela jerked her head toward the churning shadows. "We have to go, Tyler. Now." She could feel the eyes of the shadows boring into her, dissecting her every thought, her every fear. They knew her, and they knew exactly how to break her. Together, they stumbled through the clearing, dodging the gnarled roots that emerged like serpents, ready to ensnare them. Each step they took felt heavier, a leaden weight, as if the darkness had conspired to keep them in place. Tyler tripped, and she barely managed to catch him before he fell, panic clawing at her throat. "Mommy, what is happening?" His voice cracked with desperation. "I don't know, baby. But we have to keep fighting," she whispered, her voice barely above a gasp. She searched the trees for a path, a glimmer of hope. Then, a flicker caught her eye, a break in the ominous branches, a path that meandered into deeper darkness, beckoning them with a deceptive promise. "There," Angela pointed. "We have to go there." They moved as one, rushing toward the clearing's edge. But as they approached, a shadow detached from the trees, stepping forward into the dim light, its form shifting and distorting, like an oil slick under a fluorescent bulb. "No," Angela gasped, pulling Tyler even closer. The figure was creeping up on them, grotesque and twisted, its features indistinguishable but somehow familiar. "You can't be here." The resemblance was there, unmistakable. It was her mother. But this was not the gentle woman who had cradled her to sleep with soothing words and warm embraces. This presence was hollow, a nightmare made real. The smile that stretched across her face felt smeared with malice. "Angela," the thing called, voice dripping with an echo of sweetness that twisted her stomach. "You came back to me after all this time." "No, you're not her," Angela screamed, but the words ripped from her throat like a plea. She felt Tyler's grip slacken as he stared, transfixed, bewildered by the impossibility. "Mommy, is that?" Tyler's voice broke. "Run." Angela propelled them forward just as icy hands reached from the shadows, clawing toward them as if trying to seize them in a suffocating embrace. They blasted through the surge of fog, the weight of despair seeking to anchor them. But she pushed onward, hard hammering. "Don't look back. Just keep going." The fog churned violently, and amid the roiling shadows, Angela heard the familiar sound of laughter again. But this time, it morphed into something monstrous, a cacophony of voices, overlapping and intertwining, an orchestra of despair screaming for them to turn around. Tyler yelped as something lunged, just missing his heel. Angela felt the brush of shadowy fingers grazing her ankle. The breath in her lungs felt like fire as she risked a glance back. The figure stood, arms outstretched, a dark silhouette swallowed by fog, but its eyes glowed fiercely. "Join us!" it shrieked, and with it, every shadow in the valley merged into a vortex racing toward them, threatening to consume them whole. They burst from the fog into complete darkness. But there, silhouetted against the faintest glimmer of moonlight, stood a twisted tree, a gnarled sentinel in the void. Every instinct screamed for her to keep going, but there was something off about it, something desperate and familiar. "Mommy, what is that?" Tyler's voice trembled. Angela hesitated, fear gnawing at her sanity, but an inexplicable force pulled her closer to the tree. As she reached out a hand, the ground beneath her shifted once more, and a sudden realization dawned. This place, this nightmare, was alive. "What if we don't escape, Mommy?" Tyler's voice trembled, barely more than a whisper. The question sliced through Angela. The echoes of laughter surged again, ominously converging, ringing ominously in her ears. "Then we fight together." She took a deep breath, fear flickering like a candle flame, and grasped the rough bark of the tree. But in that moment, the shadows drew closer, the chorus growing louder, each voice reverberating in her mind like shards of glass. Join us," and as the shadows enveloped them, Angela realized they were not alone, and escaping was only the beginning of their terrifying journey. What waited in the darkness beyond that gnarled tree? Would they find salvation or face a fate worse than death? The moment Angela's fingers grazed the bark, a tremor coursed through her. An electric pulse surged into her veins, and she suddenly felt the weight of the world press down upon her, as if the tree had come alive. Its essence seemed to pulse in sync with her heartbeat, a rhythm filled with dread. "Mommy, I don't like this." Tyler clung tighter to her leg, his tiny frame trembling. She wanted to tell him it was okay, to reassure him that everything would be fine. But the words died in her throat, thickened by fear. The laughter swelled, and the shadows seemed to close in even tighter, a blanket of darkness wrapping around them, tighter and tighter, until it felt like they were being squeezed into nothingness. Angela's heart raced. The cacophony grew deafening, wrapping around her thoughts like a vice. "Join us," the voices swirled, merging, calling her. They were sweet and sickly. She could almost recognize fragments of memories buried deep, moments from her childhood that now melted into something grotesque. Then, abruptly, a vision flickered before her eyes. She saw her mother standing under the gnarled branches of this very tree, smiling a smile that once brought comfort but now felt sinister and twisted. "Come play, Angela," her mother's ghostly voice echoed in her mind. It was a thin thread woven into a thick tapestry of terror. "No, you're not real," Angela shouted, shaking her head as though that could dispel the illusion. Tyler's face turned pale, and she could see the confusion mingling with fear in his wide, anxious eyes. "Come, Angela," the voice persisted, curdling her blood. "Join us, you can be free." "No, we don't want to be free. We want to go home," she screamed, as if reacting to her words. The laughter shifted to something darker, more menacing, a growling murmur that seeped into her bones. The shadows congealed into web-like tendrils, snaking around her legs, pulling at her feet, urging her to succumb to the engulfing dread. "Mommy," Tyler cried out, trying to tug her away. His voice broke through her haze, a thin line of clarity in the murky abyss. Summoning every ounce of courage, Angela finally jerked her arm, forcing them backward away from the tree that seemed to sway with an unnatural hunger. "Keep moving, Tyler," she urged, fear propelling her forward. Shoving aside the thick fog, they ran deeper into the darkness, each step filled with the fear of what could reach out from those lurking shadows. But then it happened. Just when they thought they could escape, a howl erupted from the woods, a sound so primal and raw that it sent shivers racing down Angela's spine. The howl was unlike anything she had ever heard, reverberating with an ancient fury. "Mommy!" Tyler shrieked, panic fully consuming him now. Out of the thicket, The figure appeared once more, now hunched and impossibly elongated. Its dark form no longer resembled her mother, but something more monstrous, a creature of pure hatred and darkness. It let out a rasping laugh that echoed in Angela's ears like a death knell. Join us, the chant swelled again, deepening the chasm of dread that threatened to swallow them whole. They ran, scrambling over roots and rocks blindly. Each glance over her shoulder only served to stoke her fear. The figure was closing in with each heartbeat, the whispers clawing at her sanity, promising salvation in exchange for surrender. What if we don't make it? Tyler whispered, the words a fragile thread hanging in the suffocating darkness. Angela felt the darkness towering behind them, a relentless force that pushed against her back. We will, I promise. But doubt crept in. The shadows turned every tree, every sound into a trap, manipulating their path and leading them astray. Suddenly, they stumbled into a clearing, a stark contrast to the choking fog. Here, the moonlight poured through the branches, illuminating several stones arranged in a circle. But something flickered within the center, a faint, pulsing light that beckoned, the warmth issuing a strange kind of hope. Tyler, look. Angela pointed, heart racing with the prospect of salvation. But as they stepped into the light, she felt the air change, less oppressive, less alive with dread, but still heavy with secrets. In that moment of fleeting hope, shadows pooled at the edges. The lurking figure loomed just outside the light's grasp, a silhouette now distorted and elongated as if struggling to maintain its shape. Angela's breath hitched as it let out a shriek, a cry that echoed like a shattering glass. Mommy! Tyler whimpered once more, his small frame pressing against her. Stay close, Tyler. She took a step forward, but the pulsing light flickered, dimming as the shadows reached closer, trying to claw back the warmth. What was the source of that light? Could it be trusted? Or was this yet another illusion designed to ensnare them? The choice hung thick in the air as the darkness danced on the edges. Hungry for their decision, the echoes of laughter returned. Now tinged with desperation, Angela felt her heart race once more. Would stepping into the light mean liberation, or would it lead them deeper into the trap? What do we do? Tyler pleaded, his voice trembling. Angela turned to face the looming terror, determination igniting deep within her. Whatever it takes, baby, we'll find a way out. And as they stood on the precipice of choices, the air around them shifted again, a promise of something terrifyingly new. What awaited them in the pulsing glow? Could light truly banish darkness, or would it reveal horrors even more profound? Only one thing was certain. The nightmares were far from over. Angela and Tyler stood at the edge of that strange clearing, desperate and wide-eyed. The pulsing light before them flickered like a heartbeat, alive and tantalizing. The shadows lurked just outside, whispers slithering through the air, taunting them in a mocking serenade. Angela squeezed Tyler's hand tighter, heart racing. No matter what happens, I want to let go. The shadows advanced. Their presence now felt like a suffocating shroud, inching closer, poised to pull them into the depths of despair. With a sudden resolve, she took a determined breath. We're moving toward the light. Together, they stepped forward, leaving the cloying dark behind. As they crossed into the light's embrace, a wave of warmth washed over them, filling Angela with strength. But the shadows shrieked, voices merging into a cacophony that rattled her bones. You'll regret this. You cannot escape. Tyler paused, glancing back at the darkness that reached for them, fingers of shadow attempting to claw at their retreating forms. Mommy, no, don't look back, just keep going, Angela urged, her voice steady despite the clenching fear in her chest. In that moment, a realization struck her. This light felt familiar, resonating within her heart. Tyler, trust me. As they stepped fully into the light, the pulsing intensified. Images began swirling around them, memories surfacing from the depths of her mind. Happy moments with her mother, the laughter they had shared, the comfort of home. Each cherished memory illuminated by the glow refracted the shadow's menace, as if the light was warding off the darkness. Mommy, it's beautiful, Tyler gasped, overwhelmed by the brilliance. Yes, baby. She smiled through her tears, but a pang of sorrow knotted her stomach as she noted how quickly the shadowy figures retreated, writhing angrily against the perimeter. This is our chance. We can make it out. But just as she gathered the courage to push forward, a figure emerged from the other side of the light, a woman cloaked in whispers, eyes gleaming with an unsettling familiarity. Angela felt her heart skip a beat. The resemblance was undeniable. "Angela, my darling." The figure purred, distorted yet eerily comforting. "You've come home." Instinctively, Angela took a step back, clutching Tyler closer. "You're not my mother." The figure's smile twisted, and the air thickened with tension. Amid the brilliant light, a shadow of fear flickered in Angela's heart. "You need to join us now. I want tea," Angela shouted, confidence rising within her now like a fierce flame. "I choose love over fear." With those words, the light pulsed even brighter, pushing against the dark figures who shrieked and fell back. The warmth enveloped them, shimmering with the essence of hope. "You're stronger than you know, Angela," Tyler said, his voice steadied as she gazed into the radiant light. Angela recognized the key to their escape lay not in running away, but in facing her truth, her love for Tyler, her past, her strength. She took a deep breath and stepped fully into the radiance, sensing the familiar warmth ripple through her spirit. The dark figures howled in anguish, their forms dissipating against the encroaching brilliance. The air crackled with energy as the laughter twisted into anguished wails, the shadows banished back into the void from which they came. "Keep your eyes on me, sweetheart," Angela breathed, feeling the radiant energy lift them as they ventured deeper into the light, leaving the nightmare behind. Together, they soared through the shimmering brilliance, laughter mixing with shimmers of joy. She felt the weight of her past lift, replaced by an unyielding bond between her and Tyler, one that darkness could never fracture. Then, out of the kaleidoscope of light, a doorway appeared, offering an exit from the haunted valley. As they approached, a sense of peace enveloped them. With one last glance back into the abyss, Angela whispered, "We did it, Tyler." "Yes, Mommy," he squealed, the innocence in his voice filling the air as they stepped through the doorway hand in hand, emerging into the safe embrace of a beautiful dawn. The sun rose high above the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and warmth. No shadows lingered in their path, only hope remained. For Angela and Tyler, the world awaited, vibrant and alive. The trials they faced had forged a bond stronger than fear, a testament to love's unwavering strength. They were free, having conquered the darkness together. And as they walked forward, hand in hand, Angela smiled through her tears, knowing they had overcome the shadows, and that love was their ultimate light. But you need to subscribe now. Don't miss the next exclusive stories that await just around the corner. Smash that like button now, because your support keeps the stories flowing and helps us break through the algorithm. And hey, flood that comment section with your reactions and theories about this wild ride. Lastly, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second. Together, let us keep this community thriving.